Let's start in January. Set up a budget. Let's talk about what you're doing in your practice. Are you going to expand? Are you going to bring on an associate? What's happening with planning?
They didn't hire a consultant. They didn't hire, people who specialize in this. And they saw a 80% reduction in revenue.
You walk into a dental office and that doctor says something about, well, we really need, we need you to have 6 crowns. You need 4 quadrants of root planing. And you're coming there for the first time, and it sounds like you're going into a car salesman. There are 3 or 4 major things that you can do as a dentist owning a practice. Number 1 is...
Hello and welcome back to Ali Off the Record. I'm your host, Ali Urumchian, and in today's guest, we have someone who has spent more than 35 years guiding practice owners through accounting, tax planning, retirement planning, and financial management. Joining me is Art Wiederman, who was a CPA at Eide Bailly. He's finally retired and doing other things, which is exciting, but he's an expert at using dental metrics and benchmarks to spot profit holes, which can help you strengthen your business side of your practice and take control of your financial future by focusing on the metrics. In this episode, we're going to explore how to identify and fix common profit leaks, which might impact, your relationship with insurance companies and PPOs. And then also we talk a little bit about retirement planning. So stick around for this episode. You're going to really enjoy it. Thanks. Hi, Art. How are you? Welcome to the podcast. It's so great to see you.
Oh, Ali, it is so wonderful to be with you. I'm so excited that you've started this new venture as a podcaster. Isn't it fun?
Thank you. Well, I'm trying to follow in your footsteps, and I can't appreciate you enough for being willing to come on this podcast in the middle of your huge house remodel. So I know how crazy things are when you're remodeling. So thank you for taking the time to be on it.
You're welcome. An hour ago, we were trying to figure out, could we fit a washer dryer in the new garage? I don't know. That's my wife Lynn's area of expertise, not mine.
That's right. Well, you know what I think you need to do is you need to create an area and put some fake grass and hit balls into the ocean from there. Kind
absolutely.
of like the Seinfeld episode.
What a great, yeah, me and Kramer. Yeah, we're soulmates. Exactly. I'd love to. I'll see if it's in the budget.
There you go. Exactly. Well, so Art, I mean, you and I go back many, many years.
Many.
But we really got close, I would say probably in the last 10 years or so, because, I think the stars were starting to align before COVID. You saw how we worked, we saw how you worked, and then you did some really big transitions. Your CPA firm was acquired once, and then you guys got acquired again by Eide Bailly, and now you've got this, huge title as dental division director. So you're responsible for so many things at Eide Bailly. But what I am really interested in you and I, like I said, we've worked so closely since COVID. I mean, you were so instrumental right there with me. I feel like, being the voice for dentistry and healthcare on all things COVID. But I want to get your perspective on a couple of things. Okay. One is there's a lot of fear out there amongst doctors, right? It doesn't matter if they're dentists, optometrists, veterinarians. There's a lot of fear out there that the business is changing, but they don't know exactly what's changing. They just know it's changing, right? And so from your perspective as a CPA, as a broker, because you sell practices too, as, a father to a son who is in dental and healthcare lending, what have you seen change?
So when I started Ali in dentistry back in 1984, 41 years ago.
Wow.
Endodontists did root canals, orthodontists did braces, periodontists did gum surgery, and we were just starting to talk about this thing called implants.
Right.
and general dentists did general dental stuff.
Yeah.
That is not the case anymore. All dentists do a lot of different things, and a dentist could hang a shingle and be almost guaranteed a 50% net profit. And we didn't have the issues of insurance companies and PPOs cutting our fees by 40%. There was no COVID-19 pandemic that happened. That was 2020. So that was what it was. I think that the two biggest things that dentists have to deal with is, number one, the reduced insurance reimbursements that they have to deal with.
Yes.
I mean, think about a business model. Your business model is a law firm. My business model is a CPA firm. If someone said to me, Art, your costs are going to continue to go up. Your rent's going to go up. Your employee costs are going to go up, but you can't raise your prices to counteract that.
Right.
I mean, that's really, really difficult.
Really difficult.
I mean, just impossible. So on my podcast and in my lectures, we're talking about changing your relationship with insurance companies.
Oh,
okay. That's what we talk about a lot. And I think that is, I think the ADA statistics that I've read is that either 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 doctors are seriously considering or are going to exit with one or more dental plans. It is just becoming more and more evident that it's much harder to spend time with your patients. The second thing, Ali,
I believe it. Yeah.
That is really important, and this is a lot in the realm of what you do at your amazing company, HR for Health, and as an HR attorney, it is the inability of people to find and maintain good team members. Right. And I think that the key on both of these fronts for doctors today is, yes, it is scary. There is fear out there. You read about it. But the fact is there are thousands and thousands of dentists who are wildly successful, love their practice, and love their patients. I think that the number one thing that dentists need to do is to build trust with their patients and trust with their teams. Because think about it, Ali, if you walk into a dental office, your wife, your wonderful wife is a dentist, right? You walk into a dental office and that doctor says something about, well, we really need, we need you to have 6 crowns. You need 4 quadrants of root planing. And you're coming there for the first time and it sounds like you're going into a car salesman. You're not going to have trust, whereas where you are educating the patient and you're talking about them and you're learning about their lives and you're learning about their families and you've built trust. When I sell a practice, that is where the dentists are successful. So here's what I tell. I just did this on Friday. I talked to a buying dentist who closed on one of our practices. It's a fee-for-service practice.
That's awesome.
No insurance. And I said, here is the first thing that you need to say to your team. And this could be for a buyer, or this could be for anybody else who's just a practice owner. The first thing you want to say is, I am honored and humbled to take over working with this amazing team. And I want to assure you that my number one goal and mission in being the owner of this practice is to provide world-class care to make sure that we take care of the total health of our patients, regardless of whether we're going to get paid for it. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, and that's good for anybody, any of the, sure. I'm sure you have young dentists. So those are the things, is building trust in your practice. If you do that and you know how to talk to people, that's the other thing, Ali, is doctors, we've got, it's the end of the year. And, for our clients in California, the CDA convention, California Dental Association, is going to be in May. You've got the Chicago Midwinter in February. I'm going to be there speaking. You go to these conventions, doctors don't go and take a course on occlusion. You know about occlusion. Take a course on how to talk to your patients, how to present a case, how to position the patient in the chair and to get them to understand, what it is, and educating them about how dentistry is about total health.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
I think those are the things that I try and focus on in the podcast, and talking to doctors, and this young doctor that we just closed on Friday. I said to him, I said, listen, you need to gain the trust of your patients. You need to gain the trust of your team. And obviously words are words, but you're going to have to do it by your actions.
Yeah. Well, no, I think you've said it perfectly. I mean, I think, and I would add a third actually to that list, but I think you're right. I mean, going insurance independent, especially in this day and age, I think is crucial if you can do it. And there's a lot of practices out there that don't believe they can because because they have an impression of how much insurance they actually take, and we won't name any names, but everyone knows who the big gorillas are in the room. But what I have realized is that the best thing to do is to actually do an analysis, right? To do an analysis of your patient files, of the revenue, see exactly what percentage of your total revenue is coming from those patients. What would happen, if you did try to, go insurance independent, and kind of build a framework around that before ever pulling the trigger. But I agree with you. I think going insurance independent, hugely important. And you know what's funny about that, Art? I've only had one client, and as of a month ago, I used to say I had 0 clients who have been worse off going insurance independent than being insurance independent. So I was like, I had a 100% track record, right? Like, I mean, it was great. And I was so excited for all those clients. And then about a month ago, we had our first client who decided to go through this whole process on their own. They didn't hire a consultant. They didn't hire, people who specialize in this. And they saw a 80% reduction in revenue. And after about 1.5 years, they were up to 50% only. I mean, they were so severely damaged. And the only thing I can come back to is them not having done it with professionals, right?
Exactly.
Not having done it with professionals. And so we'll talk about more about that in a second, but I think that's number one. You're exactly right. Number two, employees. I mean, absolutely. Finding employees is hard enough. Finding good employees is extremely difficult. And, we have found some success recently with some new things that we're doing at HR for Health for recruitment. And so that's been actually working really well, Art, which you and I can talk about later.
Of course.
But you know what the third thing is, Art, that I think gets forgotten?
What's that?
And you know why it's forgotten? It's forgotten because it's one of those things that no one wants to talk about, no one wants to admit, and no one wants to put it out in the ether.
Okay.
And you know what that is?
I'm dying to hear it.
I think it's physical disabilities.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Physical disabilities are the silent killer in healthcare that nobody wants to talk about, but it is the reality. Unfortunately, doctor after doctor having nerve damage and stenosis, and I mean, just the normal stuff from being in people's mouths and working on animals, or doing eye exams all day long, just no matter what kind of doctor you are, the stress on your body is huge, and people forget about that.
And you're absolutely right, Ali. Ergonomics are so critical. Now, the good news is that we have better chairs and things like that, but doctors really need to take courses, again, not on occlusion, but and to do exercises on back. I mean, I've had significant back issues which I took care of, and now they're gone, which affected my golf game, and now my golf game is better, and that's good. But the point is,
that's all that matters.
But I want to add another thing. It's not only physical disabilities, it's mental issues.
Yes.
And I don't
Yes.
mean, and I just did an interview on my podcast, and I'll mention his name because I think he's wonderful, is Dr. Eric Johnson, who's a dentist down in Orange County. And he has a whole group that helps doctors with mental health issues. I think the
Oh,
statistics are 2/3 of dentists have some form of anxiety.
I believe it.
And because it's very difficult
It
to
is.
run a business, and you've got fee pressure on the top, you've got employees who are asking for raises all the time, you have patients. I mean, we can go on, but the physical part is very real. I think my statistic is 3 out of 10 of the practices I've sold in my career were facilitated because a doctor has either become disabled or was starting to feel issues with neck, back, shoulders, and things like that. So that is very important. And that is
Yeah,
a
it's
big deal.
it is
You're
a big
absolutely
deal.
right.
You're exactly right, and those are crazy statistics. And but I believe them. And you talk about business being hard, which of course it is. But a lot of people have are married, so they have marital stresses, good and bad. They have children. There's stress that comes with having children. There's families. You got parents. Sometimes you have to take care of them. And I mean, there is so much out there that is pressure on the practice owner. So I hear you loud and clear. Now, let's go back to this whole insurance independence thing. Okay.
Okay.
So let's double click on that for a second, because I can sense how passionate you are about it. So share some numbers with us if you have it. Share some strategies. Like if I'm a doctor and I'm listening and I'm dependent on one of these carriers and I'm like, you know what? I want to explore maybe going insurance independent. What's the first step they should take?
Well, the first step, as you said earlier, is hire a professional who's going to hold your hand and walk you through the whole thing. And there are many people in this industry, friends of yours, friends of mine, that we can connect them with. The first thing that you have to determine, and I mentioned this earlier, you've got to talk to your team. You are the leader. So you've got to sit down with your team and say, team, I have done the analysis. You just mentioned using numbers. Figure out how much you're writing off. Dentists are going to find out that they're writing off 20 to 40% of their revenues because of the fact that they're in network with plans. So number one is do the math. Number two is take a look at your plans. If you are in network with 5 or 10 plans, in my opinion, the first plan that you drop is the smallest one. The one that if you lose, maybe you have 50 patients or 100 patients on that plan. That's a good one to kind of go to school on. If you have a plan that 30% of your practice is that plan, you don't want to drop that one first. Okay. Right. So that's it. So you've got to get the buy-in from your team. If your team says to you, oh my God, doctor, if we start doing this, your practice will fail. You will just, it won't work. We can't back you up on this. Then you've got a problem with your team.
That's right.
What's going to happen, I think, a lot of times, if you have a good team, is they're going to come back and they're going to say, oh my gosh, we've been waiting for 5 years for you to come to the realization that our practice is suffering because of all this. The amount of time that this team has to spend submitting and chasing insurance and getting things approved and understanding all the new CDT codes. I mean, in the bigger practices, Ali, you've got 1 or 2 people that are do nothing but that. Yeah. And then
You're right.
The amount of time they can spend their patients. So number one is get it in your head that this is what you're going to do as a leader. Number two, sit down and have a heart-to-heart meeting with your team and say, I would like to go down this road, and this is what I would like to do. This is something that we all have to do together with our teams. So once you get the team's buy-in, then we find a consultant. And again, I can give you, you have resources, I have resources. We know people that will do this. Your state dental societies, by the way, doctors, especially CDA. Matthew Nelson at CDA is a good buddy of mine. He's a dental consultant. He can talk to you about this. But then we start start planning. We take the smallest plan and we start going through and we start talking to the patients before we ever do this.
Well,
And we, yeah.
Art, let me interrupt you for a quick second
Sure.
because I think before they talk to their employees, the doctors are going to say, well, how do I know I want to drop insurance, right? Like what metrics do they look at, or do they, are they
Sure.
hiring a consultant to do an analysis? But what should they look at initially to say, hey, on the surface, I might be a good practice to drop insurance?
Yeah, the first place, Ali, is to look on your Dentrix, your EagleSoft adjustment report. So on your adjustment report, you're going to have things like, your biggest adjustment is going to be insurance write-offs.
Sure. Yeah.
So if you input your fees as full fee for service and you show a write-off. So let's say that you're with XYZ Insurance Company. Okay. And XYZ Insurance, your fee for service is $150 for an 1110 Pro fee. And then, but XYZ Insurance, you're contracted, you can charge the patient $100. So there's a $50 write-off. You should have that for all of your patients on a plan-by-plan basis. And some of the programs out there, the metrics programs, Dental Intel, Dentametrics, groups like that, they have modules in their programs that will show you exactly what your write-offs are, but you can get them from your program. And then you say, okay, I did 1.2 million this year in revenues based on what I got paid and what I was contracted. But had we been full fee for service, it would have been 1.7 million. Right. So the bottom line is most consultants will tell you, Ali, that you should be able to retain 70 to 85% of your patients if you do this right. There are going to be patients who are just going to say, well, you don't accept my insurance anymore. And it's all the way the front desk person is trained. Mrs. Smith, I want to let you know that we're changing our relationship with XYZ Insurance Company. But here's the good news, Mrs. Smith. You can still come and be with us, and we take world-class care for you. And quite frankly, the way this works, it is not going to make that big of a difference. And let me show you.
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right. I think the scripts that some of these consultants are providing and holding their, the doctor's hands through it, I think is key. And you've done a lot more than I have, but in my experience, and I mentioned to you, up until about a month ago, I had nobody that was worse off having gone insurance independent. And the reason I can say that is because although they've lost patients, which is painful, right? Because some of these patients have been with you for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Suddenly they leave because of this insurance thing, but they lose patients, but they're actually more profitable as a whole, which is a big deal because if they ever sell their practice, it's going to be worth more because they're more profitable. But here's the other part, Art, that I see sometimes is we'll have a doctor in like some sort of metropolitan area where it's not easy for them to expand, right? Yes. And they say something to the equivalent of, my first available appointment is 2 months from now, 3 months from now. So they think their only solution is to go build out a bigger space, right? To go bigger and better. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's better. What they could do in those scenarios is they could start going down this road of being insurance independent. They will lose some of those excess patients, but their profitability will go up. And with kind of creative scheduling, they could kill it revenue-wise and make the life of everyone in their office and themselves probably a lot easier.
And you're absolutely right. And a couple of things will happen. Number one, doctors, you'll get to spend more time with your patients.
Yes.
Which means you're going to get to spend more time educating them, and your case acceptance is going to go up. But at the end of the day, Ali, if I go out of network, all right, and I lose, let's just say it goes really badly, like your client. If I lose 50% of my patients and the other 50% are paying fee for service, and I'm 40% discount,
Yeah.
I'm almost at the same place and I'm working
Right.
less.
Right.
And one of the things I see is a lot of doctors just say, well, okay, well, if I'm going to drop insurance, I need to go spend tons of money on marketing. What they need to do is they need to go into their uncompleted treatment plan reports and take a look at, number
That's
one,
right.
why is there so much that's not been followed up? Why aren't these patients not accepting treatment? That's really, really important. The other thing is, when we talk about metrics, Ali, we want to talk about patients that are, and this is where your dental intel, your dental metrics is really going to help you, is how many patients who are active patients, and an active patient, Ali, is someone who has been in the last 18 months. How many patients in the last 18 months have had at least 3 appointments? How
Right.
many patients are not scheduled for a future appointment? Okay. How many new patients get scheduled for their next prophy exam?
That's right.
So
That's
we
right.
have so many people that are falling through the cracks because of the fact that there's so many patients. You're booked out 2 months. The front office is inundated. They're spending their time. They've got to schedule. They've got to cover the phones. They've got to make sure that schedule is full. They've got to chase down insurance payments. They've got to submit insurance payments. I mean, there's just so many
There's
things.
so much. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they can't.
Yeah.
Whereas if so, my one of my clients went out of network with a big insurance company about 2 years ago, and here's what he told me. He said, "Yes, Art, we lost some patients, but virtually every one of them came back, and that's why it's so important to have the trust of your patients. Because if a patient leaves, they're going to go to another office. If you provide a world-class experience for that patient." And then they go to ABC Dental down the block. And instead of a 60-minute cleaning, they get a 20-minute cleaning. And they're rushed through and nobody knows their name. You know what they're going to do? They're going to call your office and say, hey, Dr. Ramshin, I made a big mistake. I want to come back. You're the best.
Right.
And I understand it's a little different. And then the front office person can say, oh my God, I'm so glad. We love having you in the office. And you and I are going to sit down in our office and I'm going to explain to you that this is not a big deal. And we are so honored to have you back.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. You're spot on. I mean, that was my wife's experience, actually. She lost when she went insurance independent, like, I don't know, 6 years ago now, whenever it was, she lost a lot of patients because, of course, as you know, she's pedo. So,
Yes.
You don't lose one person, you lose the entire family, basically.
Correct.
But what happened was they went to some of these other offices locally and they realized, man, like you said, the experience is not the same. The office, it looks like a dungeon. They don't care for the kids the same way. All these other things. And then what happened? They just came right back.
Yeah.
And of course, not everybody, but enough where, she felt really good about it because, I mean, she was like, I think like most of our doctors are, the revenue side is the revenue side, but there's a personal connection here. And for my wife, for example, some of these kids, she knew them from like 2-3 years old. And so it hurt, on a personal level,
And that's part of the fear.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was a heartbreak for her. That she lost these patients, almost like losing a pet, like it was like that close of a connection. And, but when they came back, she was so relieved because she knew that she cared so much. And I think this is a really important topic, and more importantly, it's a really important subject for everyone to hear, because in an ideal world, everybody wants to go, insurance independent, if they can do it. It's that taking that first step that is really hard sometimes. And like you said, you and I both know a lot of people, but there's probably less than 3 that, we'll say 5, but let's say less than 5 that I trust to, I think, do it truly well, truly well. There was one consultant recently who the doctor called me and said he wanted to sell me on a $65,000 consulting contract for the year just to drop insurance, and I had to like go through this whole experience with them and go to, you know, watch these videos and attend all these mini conferences that they have. And I was like, no. Like, this is not how that works. Like,
No,
this
not
is
at all.
this is very straightforward, and so on and so forth. And you hire them for just one task. And so I gave them another name, but I think for anybody who's listening, you know, reach out to Art, reach out to me. We can give you some names of folks, and I think it'll be fine. So, okay, Art, you and I could talk for days on not just this, but on all these other topics. But we've got to go to the Ask Ali segment. Now, this segment are questions that we've gotten from listeners, you know, from other podcasts that we've done, and then so I would like you to answer these questions, even though they're directed to me. Okay. So this is more of a CPA one. It says, Ali, I feel like I'm paying way too much in taxes every year. I'm taking the standard deduction my CPA recommends, but I keep hearing about strategies like retirement planning, cost segregation, and entity structuring. What are the first steps I should take to make sure I'm not leaving money on the table? Now, I mean, this could go a million ways. And Art, I want you to do what you know, respond to this as you like. But I will tell you a personal story about this that I just found out about 3 months ago and blew my mind. So a CPA that we work with that did, you know, the law firms and all the, you know, HR for Health and all this stuff, we were writing huge, like, you know, tax payments, right? You know, like, and I never understood why, but I trusted this person, and I had to switch CPAs for a variety of reasons. And I asked my new one to do an audit, okay? Because I was like, it just doesn't feel right that we're paying this much in tax. You know what the old CPA hadn't done, Art?
No.
They hadn't written off any of the interest on the real estate that we own, where the businesses reside.
How does that happen?
Exactly. I mean, you know how big those dollars are. I mean, you know, interest rates, especially the last few years, interest rates have been high. I mean, my mind was blown. We now have to go back 3 years to basically redo those returns, and I don't think we can do 2021 anymore. But it was going back to then, to actually, they actually think even further back than that. They think to 19. So I mean, it's just like shocking. So I value this person asking this question because something in their gut says I could do more, right? And so I'll let you answer it now.
Okay. No, that's okay. I mean, and again, I'll try and limit because this is an hour conversation. Okay, there are, you know, first of all, many dentists, they see us as CPAs as a commodity. And every year they say, okay, I'm going to send you all my stuff in February and March, do my taxes, charge me $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000. And there's no way that you as a dentist can find out what the advantages that you have are. And you're just going to, and the CPA is going to say, okay, this is what you owe. So there are 3 or 4 major things that you can do as a dentist owning a practice. Number one is qualified retirement plan. If you don't have a qualified retirement plan, that is the biggest no-brainer. Real easy. Baby bear, mama bear, papa bear. The baby bear plan, and I can go through this real quick. For anybody who can put away, you got to figure out how much can you afford to save, which gets into the whole financial planning, you know, how much money can I save and how much money am I spending? But if you have $40,000 or less, a simple IRA is something you can start with. 40,000 to probably 110,000. Again, if you have a spouse on the payroll, is a profit sharing plan with a 401k component. And then for anybody over probably the age of 40, 45, who can save well over $100,000 and doesn't mind writing checks for some administrative fees that might run 5, 6, 7, 8,000 a year, the defined benefit pension with a 401k. I mean, we can do some. That's number one. Number two is looking at equipment purchases under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act signed by President Trump on July 4th of 2025. 100% bonus depreciation is back for any purchases or items placed in service that qualify after, I think it's either January 19th or January 21st of this year. So equipment purchases, making sure that you sit down with your CPA, and that you have, if you're an S corporation, which unfortunately, Ali, you and I in California, they can't be LLCs. The lawyers made sure of that. No offense to your brother, but that's what happened. But anyway, the point is that we need to make sure we have S corporation basis. Number three, which a lot of people don't do, is family members on the payroll.
Yes.
I mean,
let's talk about that.
So again, some of our clients, they have children, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. They can be doing marketing. I mean, these young people, Ali, the reason that you and I have children is so that they can teach us how all this computer stuff works, right?
That's right. That's
why.
right.
No other reason.
And a tax deduction. That's the only reason I have kids.
The only reason. No other reason. Right? Yeah. And again, so the point is that they can do marketing. They can help with your website. They can help with your social media. The standard deduction now for an individual person is in the neighborhood of about $15,000. You can pay someone $15,000. They would pay if it's under the standard deduction, no federal income tax. You pay them as a W-2 employee, right? So you'll pay some Social Security tax. You'll pay a little bit of state tax. And then, they're paying tax at maybe a 1 or 2 or 3% rate, whereas you could be in the maximum federal 37%. California could be as high as 13.3%, could be a 50% rate. So those are the things.
Art, let me interrupt you there for a quick second. So let's say someone has a 401k profit sharing plan, right?
Okay.
And they have their kids on there as employees, right?
Yeah.
So and let's just say hypothetically, I don't know what the maximum is for the 401k this year, but let's say it's $20,000 just for argument's sake. Could they pay someone could they pay their child $35,000? 20 of that would go to the 401k, and then 15 would be under the standard deduction?
No, that's not quite how it would work, Ali. Number one, the IRS, the first thing, if I see a 12-year-old making $35,000, the first question is, so they don't go to school? Right?
Yeah, right.
So you have to pay a reasonable salary.
Okay,
so
good
that's
to
the
know.
thing. You have to pay a reasonable salary. I mean, income shifting has gone the way of the dinosaur. We can't do that anymore. So what we end up doing is we pay the child somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $15,000. We can take some of that money and put it into a Roth IRA, so it grows tax-free.
Perfect.
And they have it for retirement. There are all kinds of strategies, which unfortunately we don't have time to get into today. But yeah, for the children, and by the way, the other thing you can do if you have an elderly parent who maybe is also helping you with some paperwork, and maybe you need to help them out. The statistics are 1 in 3 people of, you and I are going to have to financially take care of an elderly parent at some point in our lives. So having them on the payroll, tax deductible, where they're in a low tax rate, if they're over 65 or 66, whatever their age is, they're getting Social Security, they're fine. So that's another thing to think about, is elderly parents or family members that you might be helping out.
Yeah. That's super smart. Okay. All right. Great. Awesome. So a lot of different strategies there. For anyone that wants to kind of learn more about this, reach out to us, and then I'll get you connected, with Art and some other folks that we work with to kind of talk to you about this. I love cost segregation, for example. There's a firm we use that does that really well, inexpensively. Yeah. I've used it for, our buildings. And so easy ways of being really smart with your taxes. And it's usually not big bites. It's usually small bites.
That's exactly right.
add up to becoming pretty sizable. Okay, all right. Let's go into the second question, which is, some of my colleagues say that in order to run an efficient practice, I need to be focused on the metrics of my office, which is true, I guess. What metrics should I be focused on to see how healthy my office is?
Okay. There are some I'll bring up. There are a lot more that I won't have time to get to. Number one metrics I like to look at is what percentage of the practice is general dentistry. Again, we're talking about general dentist. Specialty is a different animal. Okay.
Sure, yeah.
What percentage of your practice is general dentistry? What percentage is hygiene? So, rule of thumb, 20 to 30% of your practice should be in the hygiene department, and the rest of it in general dentistry. If we see a lot of the revenues in hygiene, and maybe it's 50-50, what that's telling me is that the doctor is not doing enough diagnosis. They've got a really strong hygiene program, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 days a week, but they're not able to spend the time, or they don't have the verbal skills to be able to diagnose and present a treatment plan well. You're going to see big practices, prosthodontic practices do a lot of all-on-fours, stuff like that, maybe even place implants, which a lot of general practices are starting to do, where that number might be lower. It might be 90-10. That's okay, because that's a different animal. In the hygiene department, I want to micromanage, kind of manage that, and say of the hygiene, let's say we did 50,000 a month in hygiene, at least 25 to 35% of that should be in the 4,000 codes, should be SRPs, root planing, quadrants, things like that. That is a revenue builder, and that's also a liability issue. You're an attorney, Ali. You know that.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So we got that. The next thing I want to look at is pre-appointment percentage and reappointment percentage. Okay, so reappointment percentage is how many of our patients, and we'll just focus on reappointment percentage. Reappointment percentage, how many of my patients are getting reappointed for a future appointment after they come in? And what you can do is look at this software. I use an example in my Know Your Practice by the Numbers lecture, is if I have 1,300 active patients in a practice, which is a practice that's going to do $1 million to $1.3 million, okay? Mm-hmm. We dug down in one of our practices, and of that, 900 of those patients were all set. They had regular appointments. They were scheduled for either an operative, restorative, or preventative appointment. They're coming in regularly, and they're covered. But those other 300 to 400 patients, we found 150 of them, they're hitting their 18 months. They haven't been into the office. Why? Because the front office is too busy of all the things we've been talking about in this conversation. These patients, we need to take a team member and get those people back in, because it's about bodies in the chairs. Okay.
Absolutely.
I like reappointment, pre-appointment percentage, and then my case acceptance percentage is really important. It should be in the neighborhood of 60 to 80% based on either dollars or number of cases presented. The national average is under 50%. And again, because it's all about learning how to overcome objections and building the trust. I mean, Ali, you go to a physician, you go to a dentist, and you trust that doctor. You've been coming to that doctor for 20 years. If that doctor says, you know what, Ali, we've been talking about this number 17 tooth now for 2 years, and take a look at that x-ray. I hate to spend your money, Art, but it's time. And if you've built the trust with your patient, they're going to say, I get it. And then you're going to say, and by the way, Susie at the front desk is a master of helping to make sure that we can fit this into your budget. Because what's the budget of the average human for dentistry?
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah,
Zero.
right, exactly. Yeah, nobody wants to spend anything. Exactly. Yeah, even though I think the average for a patient is they're spending somewhere between, I think it's $700 to $1,000 a
Yeah.
year on dentistry. But you're right. Yeah, nobody
Right.
puts that in any sort of budget
But
at all for the
but
year. And you're exactly right. Yeah, no, you're exactly
but
right.
using the metrics programs and looking at where your profit holes are
Yeah.
is really important. And that's where you can work with a dental consultant, a dental CPA, and things like that.
Well, and I want to kind of touch on that because, you can figure out where to run these reports. If there are, EagleSoft, Dentrix, Open Dental consultants and advisors. If you call their 1-800 numbers, they'll show you or send you material on how to run these reports. But it's a little bit of garbage in, garbage out, right? If
That's
your
right.
data is not good, then what you get out is not going to be good either, and so you just have to kind of keep an eye on that. I think to make sure that that data is
Well,
correct, and there are some really good consultants that can help with
well, I'm
that
gonna
stuff.
I'm gonna mention one name. My good friend Dana Johnson is the national expert on Dentrex, and she was on my podcast. Most dentists don't use more than 10 to 20% of the capabilities of these programs.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, she's fantastic. Okay, let's talk. Let's go to the final segment, which is called Plead the Fifth. We're gonna ask you a question that is turning up the heat a little bit, make you sweat and make you uncomfortable. Although I can't imagine you ever being uncomfortable. You're so cool under the collar. But I'm gonna ask you this question, and then you can either answer it or you can plead the fifth. And now, no one's ever pled the fifth, so I hope you're not the first, but you never
I
know.
hope not too.
Okay. All right. So here's I think the dilemma that a lot of people face, or when I hear gripes about CPAs, it's usually about this, which is that most doctors feel that their CPA's advice is very reactive as opposed to proactive. Okay. And they hear about problems after the year has ended, or once things are a little bit too late to do anything about. So I guess, tell me about that. Are CPAs doing this because it's, they're just so inundated and it's easier for them to do it that way and be more reactive because of their client loads? Or is it unique to those CPAs, and that there are plenty of CPAs that are very proactive like you?
Well, here's the good news: is I'm going to keep your record of not pleading the fifth going here, because
Okay, good, good,
I can
good.
absolutely answer that question. So again, I had mentioned a little earlier that many times a dentist will treat us as a commodity. It's I want to get it for the lowest cost. We're like a dental glove. Let's get it for the lowest. Right? Okay, but this is why it's so important, Ali. I think, and to be very honest with you, I couldn't convince a lot of our clients because it was a cost issue. Okay, to meet with me quarterly. Let's start in January. Set up a budget. Let's talk about what you're doing in your practice. Are you going to expand? Are you going to bring on an associate? What's happening with plans? So that if we talk once a quarter, even if it's just for an hour, okay, I don't have to do your tax projection every quarter. I do your tax projection at the beginning of the year. I'll do your tax projection in November. I'll check with you in June, July, and kind of see how you're doing, right? But it's important that you have this. Why do you come in twice a year to have your teeth cleaned? We don't want to do that once a year because things happen. So it's important, and people, what we do, I mean, we right now, we're just over the October 15th deadline. So November and December are going to be incredible, like back to back meetings. And we have a whole team that we get the information, we get their accounting up to date, make sure that they've sent us the stuff. Doctors, you've got to send your accountant their information timely, or the information's not going to be timely. That's on you. So then we sit down and we do a planning meeting. So we do a planning meeting at the beginning. Maybe we do it quarterly. Maybe we do it 3 times a year. And that is how you avoid being reactive, and you can then be proactive, because number one, the CPA needs to build the trust with the dentist. And the CPA needs to say to the doctor, doctor, you need to feel comfortable picking up the phone or sending me an email saying, hey, Art, I'm thinking about adding an associate. We need to talk. And that's the difference between working with a dental specific CPA, like us at Eide Bailly, like the ones of the Academy of Dental CPAs. You work with these, we understand all of your issues. We work with all the professionals. So this is why it's how you set your relationship up with the CPA. Is it going to cost you a little more money? Yes. Are you going to get a benefit from it? Absolutely. Because you're going to have an advisor on your team who not only is going to just do your taxes and accounting work, but is going to understand your challenges, your businesses, be able to provide you with resources of things. And that is how you have a relationship with someone that is proactive, where we're talking every quarter. Nothing is going to happen between quarters that's going to be life-threatening. And if it is, we train our doctors to pick up the phone and call us, and we'll make the time. I mean, I've dealt with crises in the middle of March because that's just the nature of the beast.
That's what it is. Yeah,
But-
no,
but-
I have to say the feedback that we get from our clients about you is incredible, and
No.
you're definitely one of the more proactive ones. And I think the lesson here is, if you want your CPA to be more proactive, then push them to be more proactive. Reach out to them, set these meetings up. I think once a quarter is fantastic. If you
I
can
do
it.
too.
If you do it 3 times a year, that's
But-
great too. But take it on yourself, and then if they don't want to meet with you, if they're not giving you that information, then maybe you can start looking around at that point, because there are some really good options out there. So
Yeah.
All right, Art. Well, Art, thank you so much. I feel like we could talk for days.
I love this. This is so much fun.
Yeah, you're so
You're the-
good, and
Ali, you're the best, and folks out there, you need to talk to Ali as far as being a dental attorney, and HR for Health is off the charts. So
Well, thank you, Art. Well, your insight today was valuable. Your feedback is always incredible. You're so generous with your time and energy, and I encourage everyone to reach out to you for whether if they're looking to sell their practices in Southern California, if they need advice on the CPA side. You're fantastic. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please comment, like, and subscribe to Ali Off the Record. But again, Art, thank you for making time. Good luck with your remodel. I hope it goes well.
so far so good.
Yeah, and don't try to hit those golf balls into the whales, okay? Like, I don't want to hear any stories about
Well, sometimes they actually go that way, but that's another conversation. And thank you for your friendship over the years. You're just an awesome human. You really are.
Thank you, Art. I appreciate you very much. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.